Welcome.
Good morning.
Welcome to Belgrade Online,
An online ministry of Belgrade Avenue United Methodist Church.
Welcome to Belgrade Online. I'm Dan, the video editor of Belgrade Online. Here are this week's announcements, followed by Dan's sermon and some music to brighten your day. Thanks again for watching Belgrade Online.
This week is Second Harvest. That means we are looking for your help to bless our community by distributing produce to people in need. If you are available on Monday from about 10:30 a.m. to 1:15 p.m., please come to the Belgrade parking lot here at 325 Sherman in North Mankato around 10:30 on Monday. We hope to see you there. Dress for the weather.
Hey, what's going on, everyone? Pastor Dan here. Hope everyone's having a great weekend so far. I just got back from New York with my wife. We always take an annual trip around her birthday, which is at the end of October. And so we were in New York City this year and had a blast and got to see one of our favorite comedians and see some sights around the city. And you know, I had to visit the filming locations of some Ghostbusters scenes from the movie, you know. But so that was a blast, and we had a great time. But we're happy to be home, where it's much less overstimulating in Mankato, Minnesota. So, well, this morning we're going to do something a little different. This morning, I'm going to actually re-preach a sermon that I preached last December in our Advent series that we did last December called Christmas in Slow-Mo. And we did a series that was last Advent all about slowing down for Christmas because it can be pretty stressful. And there's one of those messages that I thought would be super helpful to hear now as we're leading into the Christmas season. And about a month ago, the outreach team came to me and said, hey, let's do that message again, because we would love to do a special initiative this Christmas and maybe get some money together as a church for the organization Charity Water to help get water to people and kids around the world that don't have it, and as a result end up getting all kinds of diseases and don't have enough hydration. So that's what we're going to do. And this morning we're going to revisit that sermon, but I'm going to re-preach it. We're not watching the video from last year. I'm kind of re-preaching it for us this year. So that's what's going on. I hope you get a lot out of this. I hope it's helpful and meaningful to you. And I hope you join us in supporting Charity Water as we head into Advent this year. And as we head into it, I hope you have a fantastic week, and grace and peace. We'll see you soon. Bye for now. So, a few minutes ago, we heard from Jill and Helinda from our outreach team, and kind of we're looking at a Christmas initiative that we've got going on, and you know, we always talk about how Christmas is the most wonderful time of the year, and most Americans say, however, that our Christmas is the most stressful time of the year, and my Christmases in the past 10 years or so have been way too stressful. Last year we did things a little differently, and I'm glad we did. Last year our Advent sermon series was all about how to slow down and make our holiday season more meaningful, and we called it Doing Christmas in Slow-Mo. And about a month ago, we were in our leadership team meeting, and with the Christmas season, approaching in not a few weeks, a couple weeks, it's going to start here. The outreach team requested kind of a refresher on some of those principles, and they asked me if I'd revisit one of the messages from that series to help that might help kind of color our season as it approaches. So I thought it was a fantastic idea, and this morning we're going to do just that. So we're going to kind of revisit one of those messages and from this past Advent. And so we're going to do that, but before we do that, I invite you to bow your heads with me, and let's go ahead and have a word of prayer. God, thank you. Thank you for this morning. Thank you for all of us being here together. Lord, I just ask that you would be with us in our consciousness, because we know you are always with us. Help us to be conscious of your ever-abiding presence. Help us to have eyes to see and ears to hear and heart that understands what your Spirit is speaking to us. God, that we might follow you and be transformed to help grow into who you've called us to be. That we might help make the world around us what you know it can be, charged with love and encouragement and support for one another. So we love you and we thank you for this time this morning. In your name, amen.
Every holiday season, there's one toy everyone has to have.
I want the Turbo Man action figure with the arms and legs that move, and the rock and roll jetpack, and the boomerang shooter.
Getting it is every child's dream.
Whoever doesn't can be a real loser.
Finding it
You got the doll, right?
is this father's nightmare.
I'll get that toy. I promise.
Whoa! Nothing like waiting till the last minute, Howard, sir.
Especially on Christmas Eve.
Turbo Man, you're mine!
They're all gone.
These two are looking for a Turbo Man!
Where's your Christmas spirit?
The last one just left.
Now, it's two fathers,
This is war.
one mission,
Oh, poor baby.
and every man for himself.
I'm thinking maybe, we could join up as a team. Like Starsky and Hutch.
We're in late delivery of Turbo Man at Toy Works. Let's go.
Is there a problem, officer?
You can never do too much to make a child's Christmas magical.
Hey, buddy.
From the director of Mrs. Doubtfire,
You want a Turbo Man for Christmas? Forget it. I'm not gonna sit in your lap.
Tony, show him.
That was taken this morning.
and from the director of The Flintstones.
Don't open that up. No.
Of course, there's some assembly required. You know what you guys are? Nothing but a bunch of sleazy con men in red suits.
Arnold Schwarzenegger, Sinbad,
I work for the post office, and I'm unstable. Tell him.
This man is totally insane.
Thank you.
Christmas comes but once a year.
Jingle All the Way.
You picked the wrong day.
So that movie was actually filmed in Minnesota. It was filmed at the Mall of America. Anybody ever seen that? Has anybody seen that movie? There's like nobody that's seen that movie. I haven't seen it either, actually. come to think of it. But that movie kind of, like I said, I've never seen it, but that trailer, that preview, kind of encapsulates what Christmas has become in the West, particularly in our country, in America. I looked up a few statistics last year before Advent, and I thought that they were kind of telling. Last year, on Black Friday, there was a new record set of how much money was spent on Black Friday in one day. Last year, Americans spent $9.12 billion one day, on one day. The day, a few days later, is what's known as Cyber Monday. Americans spent another $11.3 billion in one day. Not only that, but we all know that Black Friday is the day after Thanksgiving, and it's over the years, Black Friday has now started to become part of some people's Thanksgiving ritual. It starts earlier and earlier and earlier to the point where there's many people who work retail who have to skip their family Thanksgiving because they have to go to work because their places of business open so early on Thanksgiving. In the last couple of years, there have been a few different companies and corporations that have taken a stand against that and says, nope, we don't care if we were going to miss out on a few bucks. Our employees are going to be able to have this day with their families or their loved ones or whoever they choose to spend it with, not at work. But it's kind of interesting how we go on from Thanksgiving, a day when we're supposed to be thankful, to Black Friday, where it's, I gotta spend, I want more, I gotta have this for that person, this for that person, this for that person. It's kind of just like that movie preview. Now, we know it's just a movie preview, but it's not too far from the truth. Did you know that there's a website that you can go to where you can look up the death count for those who've been trampled to death on Black Friday? And it's more than what you might think. It's way more than what you might think. Matter of fact, I remember last year when I was prepping for this message, there were a few pictures that I saw online, and I didn't grab them. I wish I could, because I don't know where I couldn't find it now. But the pictures I saw were from like a security camera at Walmart on Black Friday a couple years earlier, and they had this particular Walmart had a huge sale on big screen TVs, and so a security camera caught this image, which looked like a sea of big screen TVs in this crowd. And I remember zooming in because something looked strange. I zoomed in, and there was this one woman just getting absolutely cold-cocked in the face by a giant big screen TV, and the security camera caught it, and somebody kind of took a screenshot of it, and this woman's face is like, and I don't know what happened to her. She had to have been really hurt by a big screen TV. Janet, what happened to you? Shopping. Some extreme shopping going on. But this is what Christmas has become in the West a lot of time, for many of us, But as Christians, our whole thing is that we're striving to live into a different kind of a kingdom, a new kind of a kingdom, with a different kind of a king, a different set of rules, a whole different grid, a whole different mindset, a different worldview. But it's almost like, in our country, the king is consumerism. We have to consume, we have to buy, we have to spend, we have to communicate our love with stuff. In America, the amount of money that we spend on Christmas, the entire Christmas season, it's the same amount of money that it would take to supply the entire world with clean water. And want to know what's even more disturbing? Is I lied on that statistic. The amount of money we spend on Christmas is enough to eliminate clean water 45 times over. 45 times over. If all of Americans spent a 45th less of what we spend on Christmas and push that money towards clean water for the entire world, global thirst would be eliminated in one day. And we'd still have 44 times as much to spend on ourselves. In the world, there are 1 billion people who don't have enough food to eat right now. There are 700 million people who don't have access to clean water. And 1 year at Christmas, we could wipe out global thirst 45 times over. Could you imagine that? That's the scale of what we spend on stuff for Christmas. And that's just in this country. And that's just on Black Friday, most of it. Globally, we spend just under $1 trillion on the Christmas season. In 1 month, around the world, we spend just shy of $1 trillion. $1 trillion. Let me to add some perspective to this. If you take all of Americans and you take all of the credit card debt that every single American owns, and that every single American has, and you put it together in a pot and you add it up, Americans have about $925 billion in credit card debt. And globally, the amount of credit card debt that there exists globally is about just shy of $1 trillion. Everyone could be out of credit card debt in 1 month if instead of buying Christmas presents, we all put our money in a big pot and got rid of all the credit card debt. There's so much we could do with how much we spend on Christmas. The average credit card debt per American is $6,004. And every year on Christmas, we rack up more. We rack it up more. All in the name of a holiday intended to honor someone who told us to do the opposite. All in the name of a holiday Jesus never told us, never asked us, never intended us to celebrate. Every year there's like wars on, like everyone, there's a kind of sect of the population that claims that there's like a war on Christmas. There's a war on Christmas. Jesus never told us to celebrate it. How can there be a war on something that Jesus never told us to do? Now listen, I love Christmas. I love the Christmas time. I love the feel of it. Not going to stop celebrating it. I'm not going to stop buying presents for those I love. Don't get me wrong. I don't think God's asking us to do that. So, if you're kind of like, what's the pastor insinuating here? Don't worry. I'm not bah humbugging the Christmas season, okay? Here's what I am saying today, though. What is our life's mission as followers of Jesus? What is our life's mission? How do we live differently? Because most of the time, Christians, we slap the title on ourselves, and we might say a few prayers, head into church every once in a while, but other than that, our lives look identical to those who aren't Christians, who don't claim to be Christians. If you look at our lives, there's no difference. We don't live differently. We don't have any practices that are different. Our attitudes and the way we complain and whine about things and just the same. But there are things that we can do, and that's a bit of a caricature. There are things that we do, that we can do. As a small local church, we give a lot to our community. But imagine being able to get every child access to clean water. Do you know how much disease exists simply because there isn't clean water for everyone? It's like a positive domino effect. You get clean water to the world, there's diseases that will be snuffed out. Just by getting clean water to every child in the world. And we could do it in a day if all the Christians were to actually give closer to the heart of Christ. And so, think about it this way. What do you think is closer to the heart of God? Going into debt, overextending ourselves to pile on more and more stuff that will most likely be either in a closet or a garbage or re-gifted in 2 weeks, or spending a little bit less. You can still buy all that meaningless crap, but in addition, maybe spending a little less so we can give to those who actually need more. Now listen, again, I'm not saying don't spend anything on yourself. I said spend a little less, just a little less. Because psychologists will tell you that spending is just as addictive as cocaine. Psychologists and sociologists will tell you this. It's as addicting as cocaine. There's an endorphin that gets released when we spend money. For a second, we feel great, but then we kind of snap back to neutral after we do it. So we feel like it didn't work because the high left, and so we do it again. And all this happens in our subconscious. And we're kind of like lab rats who kind of go to slap a little lever to get a hit of something, and then the scientists take away the hit, and they just keep hitting the button, but nothing happens. It's addictive. The average amount of money that each family spends on Christmas every year is about $1,000. That's average. Some less, some more. And maybe we think it's just fun to spend, and it's true. But maybe, at the same time, there's also something insidious going on under the surface that we're not aware of. Maybe there's something that's ages old that's happening within ourselves. Maybe this psychological urge, this addiction to shopping and to spending and to commerce and consuming, maybe it's not a now problem. Maybe it's a human problem. And it just so happens that the state of our current culture just inflames it. Thousands of years ago, Jesus said this in Matthew chapter 6, verse 24. He says, "No one can serve two masters. Either you'll hate the one and love the other, or you'll be devoted to the one and despise the other. But you can't serve two masters." He actually says you cannot serve both God and mammon. Mammon. Mammon is the Greek word that's usually translated money. But what mammon historically was a demonic god from history, and this god was worshipped in different ways. And a lot of times, this demonic god in scriptures is translated, this name Mammon, this god's name is translated as money. And I think about maybe that's what's going on under the surface with this spending addiction that we have as Western Americans. Think about it this way. Book of Ecclesiastes in the Old Testament, you go back thousands of years even before Jesus, hundreds of years. It says this in Ecclesiastes 4, verses 4 through 12. It says this, "And I saw all toil and all achievement spring from one person's envy of another person. This too is meaningless. It's chasing after the wind. Fools will fold their hands and ruin themselves. Better one handful with tranquility than two handfuls with toil and chasing after the wind." Again, I saw something meaningless under the sun. There's a man all alone. Didn't have a son, didn't have a brother, no family. There was no end to his toil, yet his eyes were not content with his wealth. "For whom am I toiling?" he asked, "and why am I depriving myself of enjoyment? This too is meaningless. It's a miserable business. Two are better than one because they have a good return for their labor. And if either of them falls, one can help the other up, but pity anyone who falls and has no one to help them. Also, if two can lie down together, they'll keep warm. But how can you keep warm alone? Though one may be overpowered, two can defend themselves. And a cord of 3 strands is not quickly broken." Now, there's a lot going on in that scripture passage. And so if you look at sort of the refrain that the writer of Ecclesiastes keeps going back to, it's this word meaningless, or in some translations, vanity. It's all vanity. It's meaninglessness. It's the Hebrew word habel, and it means smoke. It's a vapor. It's like smoke. It's there, and then it fizzles. It goes away. And what they're saying here is this toil that this person is doing under the sun, it's meaningless. It's like smoke. Not content with the wealth that they have. Striving after something that you'll never attain. It's meaningless. It's a vapor. And the more we have, it's almost like the more we want. And this word that we translate as money, this word mammon, I think maybe could also be translated as the word more. Because I don't think money's the issue. I think more is the issue, the word more. I want more. I want more money. We need more stuff. I need more of this, need more of that. And the gifts that I spend on someone, they'll know that I love them if I get them something more. More in our culture equals love. And if you don't believe me, imagine what you might feel like if you decide not to give presents this year at Christmas. The very thought of that kind of makes you go, because my grandkids are not gonna, I'm not saying that, don't do that, but I'm just, imagine, because we tie, in our psyches, we tie love to more, to things. But listen, this passage doesn't stop there. It goes on, and it's a quick hinge. It goes from talking about the meaninglessness of toiling and not being content with your wealth, and then all of a sudden it goes into this few verses about people and friendships, and a cord of three isn't easily broken, and keeping warm together, and being together and getting things done together. Listen, this passage is saying that people, friends, relationships, this is the point of life. It's experiencing each other. At the core of who we are, who God has created humanity and who God continues to develop humanity, the thing that never changes is this, as I get a Target message on my watch. It's ridiculous. I don't know how to stop that. I need to meet with Zimmerly, tell them to show me how to get rid of these notifications on my watch. Anyways, the thing that never changes about us and our humanity, no matter how many ads we get on our watches or whatever, the thing that never changes is the fact that what makes us human is the connection with one another. With those who we know, and maybe those across the world that we don't know. But what crowds that is the need for more things. Philippians chapter 4, verses 11 through 13, the Apostle Paul says this. He says, I'm not saying any of these things to you because I'm in need, because he's doing like a collection for folks, not for himself. He said, I'm not saying these things because I'm in need. I've learned to be content in whatever the circumstances are. I know what it's like to be in need, and I know what it's like to have plenty. I've learned the secret of being content in any and every situation, whether well-fed or hungry, whether living in plenty or in want. But I can do all things through him who gives me strength. What the Apostle Paul is saying is that we can be free from this notion of more. And the antidote is contentment. He's talking about the non-content mindset, the more mindset. When I get, fill in the blank, then I'll be happy. Then my life will be easier. Then so-and-so will know I love him. But listen, we'll never ever get there. It's a treadmill. And it doesn't slow. It speeds up. It just keeps going from 7 to 8, and 8 to 9, and 9 to 10, and so on and so forth. But listen, when this little humble child, king, God's son, comes on the scene, it shows us that the big and the better and the busy rules the world. When all those things rule, God himself can come and wipe it all away with humble humanity. And when he grew up, he taught this. In Luke 12:15, Jesus says, watch out, be on your guard against all kinds of greed, because life doesn't consist in an abundance of possessions. So today, the one principle I want you to walk away with for this Christmas season is maybe spend less. Spend less. I know I'm not telling you to not get Christmas presents for your kids or your grandkids or each other. That's not what I'm saying. Let's be reasonable. That's too much of a step for us in our culture. What I'm saying is spend a little less. Maybe spend a bit more strategically. Say, well, how do we do that? How do we spend less? 3 quick things. Number 1, set limits. We can spend less by setting limits. There's a story of a family who decided to get 3 presents only for each of their family members. They said, one will be something that you really want. It could be Lego set, snowboard, video game, whatever. Second present's going to be something you need. Pair of gloves, new watch, coat, organizer for your closet, whatever. Something you need. Oil change. And then the third thing is we're going to get something to experience together. And at first, this shift was tough for this family, but after a while, they realized that every gift that they did receive became much more meaningful because they weren't getting a huge pile of meaningless junk. And I'm not saying you have to do that. This is just one example. Don't just spring this on your kids. This is not going to go well, And don't say, hey kids, 3 gifts. Pastor Dan said, Don't do that. I'm not saying that. Talk about it. Figure out what's best for you and your family. Could look completely different than the family sitting next to you. But how can you do that? We spend less by, number 1, setting limits. Number 2, set a budget. Set a budget. I said the word budget. Some of you just tuned me out of your heads right there. Here's a statistic. 1 in 3 Americans are still in debt from last year's Christmas. You want to add more to that? Let's not rack up our debt in the name of celebrating Jesus' birth. It's ridiculous. Make a budget. Make a budget. This quote I heard, it says this: a budget is simply telling your money where to go instead of wondering where it went. So talk about this with your family. Decide ahead of time how much you want to spend. Then you spend that meaningfully and thoughtfully. All right? You can spend less by setting limits. You set a budget. And then number 3, when you do spend thoughtfully. Because spending doesn't mean you love people less. It means that you've taken time to find something that A, they'll like, or B, feel they need, or C, know that they can experience together. Give some care and thought into the people that you're giving to. And most people have found that when they spend less, there's more time getting creative to give more personal gifts that really engages their heart. And when you do this, you can curate your gifts perfectly for each person and make it personal and more meaningful. You don't have to give gifts to every person in your life. If someone doesn't get you a gift, you don't have to be offended. It's just, hey, we have limits. We can only do so much, right? In Matthew 2:11, it says that there's 3 magi that visited this new king, and they had perfectly curated gifts. They gave gold, which was a gift for royalty. In the ancient world, it was for a king. So they gave gold. It meant you're our king, not Herod, you. They gave frankincense. Frankincense was a gift for a deity, a god. They're saying you are divine, you are God in the flesh. And they gave myrrh, which was a spice used to embalm dead bodies, which was basically saying you will be our savior, and it's going to be to your own hurt. 3 gifts that were personal. And we can take that cue, It's spending wisely. It's not grabbing the first thing that catches your eye, smacking a generic gift card on top, Because nothing says, hey, I want you to know that I thought of you at the last minute. Spend less. Set your limits. Make a budget. And what you do spend it thoughtfully and spend it wisely. If I could give one practical example of that mindset, I'd recommend sitting down with your family, talking through what's meaningful to you, and then spending most of your budget on an experience together. Maybe take a family trip. Make it fun. Cut corners in different fun ways. You could make a game out of it. This is just one idea. Let everyone take turns picking the restaurant that you eat at. Or make a list of places you'd like to visit this year, spin a wheel or roll the dice on Christmas Eve and to figure out where you're going to go as a family or what you're going to do together or something, whatever. Then you can spend the evening looking up information and planning the trip together and getting excited about it. Or maybe you could do something different. You could make a list of new restaurants you wanted to try, or maybe concerts you want to go to, or theater plays that you'd like to see. Maybe new parks you want to hike together, skiing together, something, anything. Buy less stuff, give more experiences. Let me ask you a question. And I'm not asking to you, this is rhetorical, don't actually raise your hands or anything. What did you get for Christmas when you were a kid? Remember the best thing you ever got for Christmas when you were a kid? Okay. What did you all get for Christmas last year? Anybody even remember? I don't remember. Do you remember what you got for Christmas 2 years ago? 3 years ago? 4 years ago? No, we don't remember because it's just flooded in a sea of junk. Right? It's nothing to say about our families that gave us this stuff because we all just are doing it out of obligation. But listen, one idea would be to relive older experiences. Relive older experiences, you know? For those that still have a grandparent alive, maybe get your grandparents a scrapbook or a photo album. Can I give you a pro tip? That's all they want. Represent grandparents in the room? You know? We don't want any more Christmas crap. Spend some time, put some pictures in the album. Who doesn't love reminiscing over life that's been spent together? Many families that I know prefer making memories together over just getting more stuff. Let me close with this. I remember last year when I told this story, brag on myself a little bit here. My wife's birthday is at the end of October, and we talked about a few months ago we did a series on love languages, and one of those love languages is giving gifts, and that is not my love language. You can give me a gift. I appreciate it. I can try to give you a gift. I'll do my darndest to make it meaningful, but I'm terrible at giving gifts. It's just not something I'm good at. It's stressful to me. I have to really think about stuff I short circuit myself by thinking too hard and whatever, and I'm a quality time kind of person. So I love just like going and doing stuff together with people and not having to like plan it or set it up or whatever. So the idea of getting gifts majorly stresses me out. So birthdays, anniversaries, Christmas, it's like major stress for me. Last year was my wife's 40th birthday, and I had some ideas to go do some things, which I usually put off planning until the week of, because that's how I roll. And then I usually will take the kids shopping, and we all will pick out something for her, a day or two before. And I do this strategically. I don't procrastinate. I do that strategically that will minimize certain younger children that I have of revealing the surprise. So the quicker, the closer to my wife's birthday or whatever that we shop, the better, because they won't reveal it. This last year, 2 days before my wife's birthday, she got COVID, and so did our whole family. And what I'd planned didn't work, and I couldn't go out and take the kids shopping because we all had COVID. I had nothing to give her on her 40th birthday. So all I had was my own creativity and 36 hours. So I messaged all of her closest friends from each sphere of her life until now, all the way back to her childhood friends, as many people as I could get the message out to, and I asked them to take their phones and shoot me a 30-second or less video wishing her a happy birthday and saying one thing that they appreciated about her. And my goal was to get 40 birthday wishes for 40th birthday, and then I'd edit them all together, and here's your birthday present, and the best I could do. And I wanted 40. I ended up getting just about 60. So I edited them all together, and I put a little number counter on the bottom of the screen, for each one. The number would go up, And I thought this was the dumbest present ever, but it's all I could come up with. I'm like, this is terrible. She's going to be frustrated with this. This is what you did. You didn't get me anything, But as it turns out, I had the whole family. We snuggled up on the couch. I through my laptop, I beamed it up to our TV, and we watched the video. And I'm like sitting there going like, oh, she's gonna hate this. You know, I looked over and she's weeping. She's got tears in her eyes, and she said it was probably the best gift she's ever received. And I was absolutely shocked. And it told me two things. Number one, I really am horrible at giving gifts. I have no idea what someone will like. You know, I don't have a pulse on what someone's going to appreciate or not. But number two, she didn't care about the gift. She cared about something meaningful to her. She cared about thoughtfulness. And we all know that. It's the thought that counts, right? But we all don't really believe it. But it really is the thought that counts. And you know, I realize it's not the giving of gifts that's difficult for me. It's the fact that there's too many options. That those myriad of options drown out my heart. And so being sick last year set limits. Or you could say drew boundaries and eliminated options. And got rid of the thousands of dumb possibilities that I probably would have gone for. It set the budget for me, which in my case was zero because I couldn't leave the house and nothing I order would get there in time. And it forced me to spend thoughtful time on what I did give her. And it turned out being way better than anything I could have imagined, even though I thought it wasn't going to be good enough. And now, this approach works well with kids, with adults, but with kids things get a bit more tricky because you know, what's meaningful in life takes a few decades worth of experience to really evolve, and kids might not respond in the same way. It's just part of the growth process. But as a whole, it turns out that the people closest to us really are kind of like God at the core of our hearts, because we just want each other's hearts, we want each other's time, and we want to know that others care about us. We want to be seen. We want to be reminded that the life that we share together is mutually experienced and mutually enjoyed and mutually appreciated. So as we go into this Christmas season, let's not focus on spending more. Let's focus on gifts that are actually meaningful. Let's take a fraction of what we would spend and maybe give it to something that's bigger than ourselves. And then the money that we do spend on ourselves, let's set limits. Let's make a budget. And let's spend that budget thoughtfully. Let's pray. God, thank you for your love and your heart and your example. God, forgive us for missing it. Forgive us for just going with the flow of wherever the culture takes us. And God, we know that you don't call us out of our culture. You call us to stay right in the midst of it, but do it differently. You're not calling us to swear off all gifts or stop celebrating this commercial holiday or whatever. You're calling us to redeem the holiday and use it meaningfully. Help us to do that this year, God, so that your love for others is communicated. We ask that that love would be communicated to us too in return. So all of life is give and take. Help us to remember this and ponder this as we go forward into this Christmas season. In your name, amen and amen.
From the love of my own comfort, from the fear of having nothing, from a life of worldly passions, deliver from the need to be understood, from the need to be accepted, from the fear of being lonely. Deliver me, oh God, deliver me, oh God, and I shall not want, no, I shall not want. When I taste your goodness, I shall not want. When I taste your goodness, I shall not want. From the fear of serving others, from the fear of death or trial, from the fear of humility. Deliver me, oh God, yeah, deliver me, oh God, and I shall not want, no, I shall not want. When I taste your goodness, I shall not want. When I taste your goodness, I shall not want. And I shall not want, no, I shall not want. When I taste your goodness, I shall not want. When I taste your goodness, I shall not want.
We hope you enjoyed this week's episode of Belgrade Online. If it was life-giving and encouraging to you, please let us know by visiting our giving page at baumc.org/give. Thanks again for watching and have a blessed week.